Well, we're just days away from the final of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. We're after witnessing two incredible semi-finals last Saturday night, and we're again talking Derby. I'm joined as usual by Tommy Lyons of the Cork Examiner, and joining us again, or joining us for the first time, should I say, Declan O'Donoghue. Declan, you've been to Shelbourne Park you've been going to Shelbourne Park for quite a few years at this point. I won't throw any more insults your way. You've seen plenty of good derbies. This must be up there with one of the best.
It is. I think last year's Derby final was the best final that we've ever seen. But this year's Derby, yeah. I mean, obviously the backdrop is completely wrong. There's no one there. We'll miss everyone on Saturday night, of course. We don't know yet what the arrangements are, but a lot of people who want to be there won't be there. We'll miss them as much as they'll miss being there. But on the track, it's been an incredible Derby. We have two real superstars in this Derby. You know, two of the best I've ever seen, frankly. And yeah, it's a final. There's four other winners in it. We all know anything can happen and probably will. So yeah, it can't wait. I wish it was starting in half an hour's time or something, you know what I mean? But it's brilliant Derby, brilliant.
Declan spoke of the backdrop there, Tommy. It will play a big part in this year's Derby. You know, I know we've only one race to go, but you've got two flying starters, two dogs that really depend on their start. With empty stands, it should make their task just that little bit easier. You don't have to deal with the normal Derby furore.
Yeah, we talked to this a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was interesting in one of the interviews on Saturday night that one of the connections pointed out that maybe that the way the dogs were being loaded, now it's changed again since, but the way the dogs were being loaded a few weeks ago when they were taking them in smaller stages and say it was taking a bit longer and a dog might have been held in the traps for maybe a minute, which would be unusual, that might have had an impact. So maybe that's what it is. We didn't see it in the last couple of weeks, thankfully. And so I mean, I'm not expecting anything, only a clean race on Saturday night. Hopefully, because you just want. It doesn't matter. Look, I say I'm a bit of a purist, and I have no financial interest in the final. I hope Pastana wins or New Taylor wins. It'd be hard to crowd dogs or doing what they're doing. But like Liam Dowling's after getting two dogs to the final. You know, Robert Leeson, another one there. Like Mina Miracle, she's performed remarkably well to get there. She might be a 40 or 50 to 1 shot for the final, but that kind of brings a bit of excitement in itself because there's no expectation. Whatever she achieves would be fantastic. It would be a story in itself. So yeah, like you say, we've got two superstars there. I agree with Declan. Like, I wanted this clash right from the very start. We wanted this clash, and I think there's plenty to talk about today in the sense of what happened in the two semi-finals. We'll be touching on that a bit closer shortly, but makes them very, very interesting. I'm not worried about the draw for Pastana. I'm not that worried about it. I don't think that's what's going to beat him on Saturday night if he gets beaten. So yeah, it's all set for an absolutely, possibly the best Derby final of all time.
Well, Tommy hinted there that we might be talking about the two semi-finals. You know what? It's as good a place as any to start. Declan, what was your take on Saturday night? Obviously, two fantastic performances, but what could explain the disparity between the times? Because to the eye, there didn't seem to be much in it.
Well, I think since we came back, Derry mentioned the new normal. The times in Shelbourne have been crazy. Even on Tuesday nights, some of the times have been scarcely believable. You know, the track has been flying. Even the 20 fast sometimes hasn't really described it. And I did feel last week, particularly on Friday night, that it was going back a bit, maybe back to normal. The track wasn't buzzing as much. The times were more realistic. And I think actually that we probably misread this at first. We're saying what happened to Pastana. Nothing happened to Pastana. He ran another absolutely brilliant race. And 29:39 is a great run, you know, and he was superb. I think what actually happened was New Taylor ran an incredible race, a really superb performance, probably a career best performance. And that then leads you down two different roads. It could be New Taylor is now coming to the Boyle at the perfect time, which can happen. But the fear connections we'll have is, and how often have we seen this down the years, the dog ran his final on the wrong night. And that can happen, you know, because I would say if he does the same again next Saturday, he wins. No question. You know, that's how good he was. It was really, if the clock of a week before had been there, he might have come very near breaking the 29 seconds. That's how good it was. Pastana was superb. Interestingly, the two dogs behind New and Taylor ran absolute crackers. And I would disagree with Tom in one sense. I don't see how Demina Miracle one is 33-1. I don't get that at all. She's a real player in this. But I would also say she's the worst drawn. And it's interesting to hear people talking about Ballymac Wild might move out. Well, I can guarantee you, Mina will move out. She will move wide. She, to me, is a middle to wide runner. She finished on the hairway last Saturday night. And she is definitely, now that will give Ballymac Wild clear blue water up the inside if he wants it, you know. And in an early round, he did kind of run straight enough from track one, I thought. It's not his best box, surely. I agree with that. Totally agree with Tom. I think 4 is a perfect draw for Pastana. I think we're reading this dog wrong. He can run from any box. He's a fantastic dog. If you can get the inside, he'll take it. If he doesn't, he's fine. I think you two lads were criticising him last week, if I heard it right, for coming home wide. But he was drawn on trap 5. And he is a great tracker. And we never hear track science mentioned now. It's all power and pace. But Pastana is a superb tracker. And he will find a way. You know what I mean? So semi-finals, both excellent. I think the clock has gone back in Shelbourne in the last week, and that explains the times.
Tommy, the argument to that argument, of course, is that Mina Miracle and Ballymac Cooper also then ran their finals in the semi-final. Is that the way you see it, or do you have a different view on the disparity between New Inn Taylor and Pastana rather than the actual times overall?
Yeah, like I would say, like, New Inn Taylor ran as professional a race. I think that any Greyhound can run over 5:50 last week. He just did everything absolutely right. Now, maybe it's a little bit of what Declan said, but like, to me then, as you say, Ballymac Cooper ran out of his skin. The whole field was closing down on him now, not just the runner-up or the third. The whole field is closing down late. That's fine. I mean, you and Taylor did nothing wrong, 29-13. You're going to win every night if you do 29.
Well, when you're setting such a strong gallop in front,
yeah,
you're bound to come back at some point. You know what I mean?
Two to three was absolutely phenomenal. Now, I haven't got the sections at the moment. My Catman's getting a bit slacky. We'll have to have a chat with him. But the 2 to 3 was just to the eye was absolutely phenomenal from New Inn Taylor. It was just remarkable stuff. But yeah, like, my issue with trying to figure out what the difference between New Inn Taylor and Pastana is that Pastana was holding Ballymac Wild very comfortably, to my eye, all the way to the line. There was never a danger that Pastana was going to get caught in that race in the semi-final. Absolutely none, as far as I could see. And yet he did 340. Okay, that probably explains a little bit over length. And when you do that, then you're kind of always chasing your tail a little bit in terms of doing a big clock. He lost a little bit of it there. But like, if you look at it and just take bare form, if you forget about the clock and just look at the bare form and you say New Inn Taylor's beating Ballymac Cooper 2 lengths and Pastana's beating Ballymac Wild 2 lengths, I think I prefer the Pastana form personally. So, I mean, I can't explain why. Maybe, like, the reason we talked about it, Declan was alluding to there about the Pastana swinging wide. The only reason we were looking at this is I'm a big fan of Pastana. I kind of want him to win the Derby because
is it that it was slightly different to previous weeks, that he hadn't done
it was a little bit more exaggerated than previous weeks. It was just a little bit more exaggerated. He was perfectly tight to the rails the rest of the way he normally does, moves out down the back, swing, runs the bend very well, and then he swung wide, and he always comes back in towards the rails in the straight. I just thought it was a bit more exaggerated last week. I really don't know what to make it. I can understand the New Inn Taylor's favour. I mean, just as I said to you, that just looked so professional the last 8. I mean, it was absolutely paw perfect. Couldn't do any more than he did last week. If he reproduces that, then Pastana has to go back to a record-breaking run to beat him.
Yeah. Declan, we've been at enough Derby finals to know that, listen, it doesn't matter what they do in the semi-finals in terms of clocks, times, performance. You can throw that form out the window. It's all about one race now. It was all about qualification on Saturday night. And I dare say Owen McKenna and Graham Holland would have taken third spot the other night with both their superstars. But are we looking at a Derby final where it's simply a case of whatever leads around that corner will win? Or is there another circumstance where you can see something like a Ballymac Wild or a Ballymac Cooper, a Mina Miracle, or even a Clara Icon coming from off the pace to win? Or is it just a case of we need one of the big two to make a mistake or for them to clash?
Well, like this time last, I mean, they make fools of us all. Like this time last year, we were saying Lenson Bocco has to lead to win the Derby. He didn't lead, and he won the Derby. So there's so much in this. I mean, New Inn Taylor is breaking better now, and that's made a difference. I think the last 2 weeks in particular, he always a superb early pace, but he's now hitting the lid. He will need to do that again. Obviously, you would say the same about Pastana, but we don't know. I think Clara Icon needs trouble in front. With that, and if you get to run up the inside, he does seem to favour the inside on the run home. then he has every chance. Mina Miracle will probably want a bit of trouble in the race as well, but she will be flying home also. I think I agree with Tom, though, that if you're that far in front, in a Derby final, it's very hard to reel them back in. And the only thing is the two favourites could do each other.
Even if you do get to them, you still have to go around. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, he's probably the best drawn in the race, though. Newen is the best drawn in the race, and staying out wide keeps you out of trouble. You know what I mean? And that could win the race for him, actually. You know what I mean? But of course, there's every chance Pastana just bomb out and be gone. There's every chance of that. With two certainly and one possibly moving wide, Pastana would probably need to be pretty sharp getting away, particularly this time. Kalara probably won't break that well. He doesn't need to, in fairness. It might suit Kalara, Icon, to give them a little bit of a lead and then get a run at them later on. Probably wouldn't need trouble in front, as I say, though. But we know what happened. It's fine. Anything can happen. Just the unlikely would probably happen.
Now, it's a very different year in terms of on-course bookmakers not going to be there. Of course, we are depending on the off-course layers and exchanges for industry prices and the likes. Just a simple one, lads. What goes off favourite, firstly? Tommy, I'll ask you first.
Newen Taylor, because of how professional. He looks like he's coming to the Boyle, and Declan might have a point, because you're always trying to find a way to get them beaten if you are looking for a little bit of value. You don't want to take the short price. Newen Taylor, maybe he did run this fine in the semi-final, but he's coming to the Boyle. As Declan said, his trapping is consistent now. Whereas Pastana, you could argue, and again, I don't want to do this because I'm a big fan of Pastana, 338, 340 in the last two rounds compared to 332s in the two previous rounds. That's a big difference. I'm telling you, he can't afford to do 336 on Saturday night if Newen Taylor does 332 like he has done where he did again, in the semi-final. If they both bring their A game, we've talked about this before, if they both bring their A game, Pastana wins, because Pastana's on the inside and Newen Taylor has to find an extra length and a half to get around him. He's going to find, you just said it there a minute ago, you have to find a way around the dog. And, on a circuit where a dog is going to be doing 29.20, 29.10. I mean, it's not that long ago we were wowing at the fact that he was bypassed Byway with the 29.42 or 3 was in the final, something like that.
29.42 clock at the time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We were just absolutely stunned, because normally in Derby finals you say, okay, the fast times are done now, it's just about the final. And, you can really put the clock back 30, 40 spots and say that's what the Derby final is going to be won in. But, Newen Taylor goes off favourite just because everything is in his favour, in the sense that he has the perfect draw. Declan said it there rightly. He's the best drawn dog in the race. Ballymark Boyle will come a bit in the middle. Mina Miracle will come a bit in the middle. Clara Icon won't feature early, we'd imagine. Pastana will be going in. Ballymac Cooper showed last week he doesn't have the early pace to keep with. He ran the super race now in the semi-final, but he doesn't have the early pace to keep with Newen Taylor. If you said to me which dog is going to get around the bend without trouble, it's Newen Taylor. That's the one I say now, but that's if Pastana breaks as well as he can, they'll both go around, one inside, one outside, and Pastana wins.
Declan, what do you think will go off favourite?
Oh, I think the 6 dog will be favourite. I would say evens 10 to 11 perhaps, and 5 to 4 Pastana.
5 to 4 Pastana. Just since 2000, lads, have a guess. How many Derby finals have been won by the favourite?
Not a clue.
About half, perhaps.
Yeah, you're close enough, Declan. 9 Derby favourites since 2000. Judicial Pride in 2000, Bypass Byway in 2002, Climate Control in 2003. Shelburne Aston was a joint favourite at 130, actually. That must be one of the biggest returning favourites SPs of all time. College Causeway 5 to 4 in 2009. 2012 Skywalker Puma 2 to 1. Law Hill Blake odds on in 2014. Good news. Joint favourite at 7 to 4 in 2017, and last year Lenz and Bocco odds on at 4 to 5. Of the Derby finals you've seen through the years, Tommy, Declan, is there one that can compare to this? Is there one where you go, this has the look of this type of final? Is anything that jumps off the page? By that, I mean, we have two dogs that are so far ahead of the market. You're talking even at 11 to 10 and 5 to 4 at where they have been quoted. You're talking, what are you talking? You're talking like 93% of the book there. Have we ever seen anything like that?
I don't recall it like that with two dogs. But like the funny thing is, right? We're talking now about dogs that are doing things that have never been done before. But it does go back not just to their ability, but as Declan says, to the track and to how fast the track is running. And perhaps that will be our new normal. That seems to be the phrase of 2020. So maybe the new normal is that the track is going to be running to the kind of 29:20, 29:10. The number of dogs that have broken the old track record are gone very close to the 29:10 in this derby is remarkable. Maybe it's like anything, things progress, and it took it long enough to break 29 seconds over 5:25. Now we're breaking 29 seconds over 5:50. I mean, maybe that is the new normal, and just that these dogs are capable of doing it now. We'll be seeing a bit more of it in the future. I don't remember a derby final like that, Ian. I can't, not off the top of my head, I can't. It's funny when you think back to derby finals, you think back to the obvious ones, your college Causeway, sensational ones, the big upsets, the like of Shots and Tina Marina and the likes of that, where they were big prize winners, and maybe we'll have something like that. I'd be disappointed. I mean, God Almighty, Liam Dowling and Michael Corr and Robert Leeson and connections are hoping that there will be a bit of an upset. I'd be kind of disappointed because I just love to see the best dog win.
Declan, of your memories, is there a derby that there's probably no derby that actually comes close to it in terms of the two dogs taking up such a high proportion of the market, but is there something that you remember where it was seen as nearly a two dog affair? Like I'm looking back, the one that I sort of came across earlier on, there was two, both in the early 2000s. Judicial Pride was 6-4 favourite, Rapid Ranger 7-4 favourite. They finished first and second, and then a couple of years later, Bypass Byway was 11-8 and Droopy's Reese 2-1, but that's all I could find.
Yeah, they're two good examples, and I thought the pricing was strange both times. I think the favourite each time, the winner should have been a little bit hotter.
I tend to agree with you, certainly with Bypass Byway. I thought he should have been very hot, very short favourite.
I mean, the cool performance here, that was a great final. Late Show would have won in another stride. I mean, that was. There was a lot of good dogs in that final, but off the top of my head, two dominating quite as much, I don't recall, honestly. I don't. The two you mentioned would have been the two closest in the betting, but they really shouldn't have been that close, I would honestly say. Yeah, and that's not speaking with hindsight. I remember thinking at the time that to me there was an obvious favourite both times, and the obvious favourite won both times. The other two were very good dogs, don't get me wrong, extremely good dogs. Sure.
Declan, you'll be in your press box on Saturday night?
Yeah. Absolutely,
yeah, you're one of the lucky few. Do you think we could sell our spot in Shelburne Park to someone? Well, I'd say we get good money for it, to be honest.
I'm sure. I'm sure we could. It's funny you mentioned Shelburne Aston winning at was it 130, 10 to 3?
And he was about 5-1 on the Monday.
Listen, I used myself, Michael Allen, used to return the SB at the time, and that was an absolute nightmare. We ended up with three giant favourites. Ted was at his best. Everything was just going all over the shop. You know what I mean? It was crazy. But
it was one of the most bananas betting rings of all time, that final in particular.
It was. Well, the most amazing derby for betting was Ironman's year. The favourites won, I think, every single heat bar two. Ted said he got two results out of 31 heats. And I remember well because you couldn't get in to back a dog because people were still getting paid on the previous dog. It was, I never was anything like it. It was like clockwork, favourite, all the way.
Funny, around that time, I think I remember Ted moving a second bag to the end of the line just for payouts. I think that happened probably the following year or the year after that because of what had happened in that year.
That could well have been. In fact, a lot of them had two people. They had one person paying out. Okay, and another person, how the Clarks dealt with the whole thing, I don't even want to think about that one, But Ironman's derby was incredible because everything went to form all the time. We've never seen that before or since.
So, looking ahead to Saturday night, make a case for the outsiders. Make me a case for Kalara Icon. Tommy, first.
Yeah, well, it's the obvious thing with Kalara Icon. Even though I'm just looking at the prices here, the best price was 40-1. Is that Ballymac wide moves wide and Pastani comes in and Mina Miracle is the meat and the sandwich. Now I don't know what we'll do with New Taylor because Ballymac Cooper won't be able to pace with him to the bend, but there is potential for trouble. Even if Pastana, as Declan said, if Pastana and New Taylor go together, maybe they will bump. Maybe they will bump. Pastana normally runs tight line, New Taylor runs a mid to wide line. and they shouldn't until maybe down the back where Pisana might swing off or again off on the straight. But
on Saturday night, just a matter of interest, was New Taylor not a bit closer to the fence than you're both giving him credit for? I know off the second bend, I've never seen a dog. Basically, we've mentioned his name a couple of times since the likes of Bypass Byway or Declan and Tommy. You'd certainly both remember Movie Gamble. Do you remember he used to run that second bend like he was being catapulted into the back straight? New Taylor took one step right into sort of the middle of the track and then just drove off his right side as if he was a basketball player driving through a lane or something like that. It was incredible. I'm not sure Ewan Taylor wants to be all that far out. I wouldn't be surprised if he was close enough to the fence. Now, that's okay, granted, when he's on his own up front, but your take?
That is key. That is key, that he's on his own. You can do what you like them. They're intelligent animals. They'll Ewan Taylor will be able to see Pastana inside, and if that's the case on Saturday night, and be able to maintain his course. I just think everything about the run was professional, was perfectly professional. I mean, if you could have asked the dog, say, right, you're in front and you're on your own, this is what you do. I mean, he did it. That to me is how I can't get over it. Every time I look at that run and think about that run Saturday night, I just think professional. That's all that comes into my head. It was absolutely perfect. You could, I honest to God, there's no. I mean, yeah, if there was a dog inside him, you can be sure there wouldn't have been a collision. He would have been just keeping the course that he would, if at any stage, any race he's been in, where there's a dog inside him, he could keep the course and run his race. I mean, I love the performance of Ewan Taylor. I wouldn't be saying or defining him on what he does when he's on his own up front. I just thought it was perfect. I can't see how he can clear Pastana, because Pastana will be going in, but I'm hoping that they're neck and neck to the first bend. After that, we'll worry about what track they take.
Fair enough. Declan, make me a case for Clara Icon.
Well, it is a final. And as we all know, anything can happen. And that famous first bend in Shelbourne, I mean, just literally anything can happen there.
Dreams come true and dreams are broken, both at the same time.
Absolutely. He does favour the inside maybe a bit too much. That could go against him, but it could also win the race for him. Let us imagine, say the first bend, and it needn't necessarily be the first, but say the first bend and there's trouble, and then suddenly there's a gap on the inside. He's gone and he's through it, you know what I mean? And he finishes best of all. So you can make a case for him. I would say 14-1 is more proper price than about 20-1. I think the two outsiders are too long in the betting. I would say Mina Miracle, that 20 is a good price for her, actually, and she's much longer than that, So
my problem with Mina Miracle is, and I love her, don't get me wrong, Declan, but I was tipping her up in A1 Open stroke AO races prior to the Derby, and tipping her up, and she was getting beaten, and you're going, God almighty. But she's just one of those that's better and better company. And allied to that, the fact that she's only in April 18, she probably has found the peak of her form, and she's just running out of her skin.
Oh yeah, she's improving. She's getting better all the time, but she is badly drawn. If I had her, I'd love her to be 4 or 5. Two doesn't suit her, 1 or 2 don't suit her at all. She will absolutely move across. That's guaranteed. But it doesn't bother her. It may bother something else, as we've seen in the early rounds, but it won't bother her. And she'll be flying home. She has a chance. But again, like Clara Icon, something would have to go wrong. And of course, Liam Downing's 2 dogs are superstars in their own right and very well proven. And Ballymac is still improving. I mean, you won't win a derby without beating great dogs. But looking back, he could be a bit unlucky because he's taking on 2 absolute superstars here, which in a normal year he wouldn't have to face.
In years gone by, we would have said that Ballymac Wild is the 550-yard dog, whereas Pastana and Ewan Taylor are more 525-yard dogs. But just given the track in the last couple of years, it just seems to be more suited to those 525-yard dogs. Is that the way we're working on it?
No, I think people get that wrong. I mean, the first time they run over 550, they're always a little bit vulnerable. We saw that with Pastana in the Champions Stakes semi-final. But next time it was no problem at all, as I knew it wouldn't be. And the same with Ewan Taylor. And had Ewan Taylor had to put out a bit extra on Saturday night, I'm sure he would have done it. I'm sure he would have done it. He was in a Thomas, right? When you're in front, you can go where you like. I mean, that's the point I was also making about Pastana the previous week. Pastana just decided to come around on the outside in the last bend. That was fine. He was far enough in front to do that. They're both very good trackers. And I take your point about the second bend last week, but they're very good trackers. They're not just power and pace. And really, for any of the other 4 to win, both of those have to underperform. And that is probably asking a lot.
I just watched New Taylor's race there when he got beaten in the first round, and around the second bend he ran as tight as he could, but there were dogs inside him. He's just tracking very cleverly, if you ask me. I mean, if he's in front, he's gonna track that nicely. He's chasing it hard. He's taking the best line he can find to the hair, and I mean that's all you can ask of a greyhound to do that in the race. I mean it's I would say in my head and my heart to be saying Pastana all the way through. I just can't. If New Taylor wins it, you're just hailing another hero, just a bit like Pastana. They're two absolutely fantastic dogs, and that's like. Fortunately, maybe for some of the connections involved with one derby, but like because you'd be saying that the lads who may not have been there, you'd love to see them win one, but I think it's going to be difficult. You are really coming up against two absolute. You're asking for both of them, absolutely both of them, not to do it right. I just hope they both do it right, and we'll find out. We'll find out something, and we'll have an absolute crack. What's your taking on the semi-finals and the disparity of time? Are you?
Kevin Hennessy, I was going to reference him there a moment ago, just as regards Pastana, but we'll get back to that in a moment. My take was that I went downstairs between races to do an interview with Robert Catterson of Racing Post TV down on the ground floor. And when I started the interview, you could hear the wind howling, galing. By the time the interview was over, it was calm as a midsummer's day. I feel that, yeah, perhaps. I feel there was a strong chance that maybe conditions had just dropped, just enough, because there was a very, very strong wind. Okay, it's on their back down the back straight, but it's very much into their face, up to the corner and up the home straight. And perhaps New Taylor just had slightly easier and more benign conditions. Now, it's grasping at straws. They were all running on the same night, but across the whole evening, the times would suggest that the track was probably 20, 25 back on previous weeks. Now, as Declan said, perhaps the track is going back. He's definitely made a very pertinent point there about Friday night. The times on Friday night didn't stack up to previous weeks, because there was dogs doing runs. You go, wow, you're expecting that to do 30 spots faster the way the track had been running. But that's why New Taylor's run was it was like an oasis in the desert. It was one of these, like, don't get me wrong, the rest of the runs weren't a desert, but it was such a standout display on those two evenings that you just find yourself asking why, or else you believe that he did a 28.90 run, which I still find very hard to believe. Like any dog doing that sort of run is mind-boggling. Back to the Pastana point that Kevin Hennessy made in chat with me after racing on Saturday night. Champion Stakes final night, he didn't get the start. He flew into the corner, but on the corner he did something that you love to see in a racing greyhound. He shoved his way through. He used whatever advantage he had to basically shove Ballymac Cooper out of the way on the opening corner. Now, Pastana's a 68-pound dog and Ballymac Cooper's an 81-pound dog, but it shows that he's more than just this wham bam wallop get to the front merchant. Is there a chance that he will run a racing type greyhound line on the opening corner on Saturday night and just give New Taylor that little nudge, that moment where he goes, no, this is my time?
Well, that is a scenario that opens it up to the greyhounds in behind, because I don't think that either New Taylor or Pastana are going to ship a bump at the first bend and still win the derby. Looking at it the other day, as I said, Pastana was holding Ballymac Wild. This kind of gives credibility to what you're saying about maybe conditions, because the Ballymac Wild, who has 29.07 on the clock, that he's been held 2 lengths all the way to line by Pastana. But maybe there was something in the conditions being a little bit different, and it had to be wind or something, because the track isn't going to change in the space of 15 minutes, not like that. But if I can't see them shipping a bump now and still win the derby. I mean, even if they just bump and Pastana has the advantage of the inside and gives New Taylor a bump and can ends New Taylor's derby, it's going to open it up to the behind. I mean, Ballymac Wild only needs to find 2 lengths. Ballymac Cooper only needs to find 2 lengths on New Taylor. I'm not sure. Although I wish them well, I'm not sure how many American or Clara Icon are still going to get into it well enough to win the derby, because you've got to not only have have hope that Pastana or New Taylor find that little bit of trouble or do something wrong. You've got to get it in Ballymac Wild as well. How they're going to improve past him, and then you've got Ballymac Cooper for another strong dog who can go up reasonably well, not like New Taylor or Pastana, can go up reasonably well. I don't see them shipping bumped in. If that happens, I'd be looking behind to Ballymacwild.
Declan?
Sorry, what was the question again?
I know we started a while back.
No,
I was asking
it's
as
all
regards
good.
Pastana. Will he use other means as well if needs be? If they do race to the corner together, Pastana, is there a chance he'll use a racing line, give New Taylor a bump, and go on about it?
Of course. I mean, they both are tough dogs as well. They got and won what they won and have the strike rate that they have lately. Would have been pretty determined dogs. And Pastana, you're quite right. In the Champion Stakes final, he powered into that bend. He powered into that bend, and he's well capable of doing that. And it could well happen on Saturday. And it was a great performance from him last Saturday. We're just say the other semi-final wasn't on, or something happened, or something, we'd be saying it was an outstanding performance.
Oh, we'd be completely fawning over him. There's no question.
Yeah, it was a brilliant performance. And 29-39 could easily win the Derby next Saturday night. Very easily. You know what I mean? So, no, they are two powerful dogs, and the danger is if they what a fantastic race it would be, what a spectacle we'd have if they both go at it right from say the first bend. The two of them are going hammer and tongs all the way. They could just cut each other's throat a little bit. We've seen that happen so often, and a dog flying through from the back could just catch them on the line. You know what I mean? And we've seen that in Derby finals. So it is conceivable, but they set a very, very high standard. And for anything else to win, both of those have to either meet trouble or underperform. So that's the way it is.
I suspect that Liam Dowling is kind of loving this situation where his dogs are not really being talked about too much, or all the focus is on Pastana and New Taylor. He just goes about his business. He's won a Derby. He knows what to do. Ballymacwild just keeps improving. He's only had 14 runs. Ballymacooper is the older dog with a bit of experience, so he'll be wily enough to maybe pick up pieces if something, like Declan said, if something happens that they do cut each other's throat. I mean, I'd say Liam Dowling is loving the week. He's fairly relaxed about it. Hey, all the focus is on New Taylor and on Pastana. I'll just go about my business, and maybe I'll surprise them.
For sure.
Declan, will this be known as the social media derby forevermore? Amen.
In what way? In that?
In a sense that, that's how people are getting to, have their fix as such, because so few people have actually been on the stands for any round of this derby at all. So, is this the derby that we change not change the way we view greyhound racing, because obviously those people are chomping at the bit to get back onto the stands, but is it a derby that has changed the way in which we discuss it, in the way we deal with the everyday arguments that happen in the derby? Is it one that we found out more stories in this year's derby perhaps than any other because of social media?
I think social media is a huge help, and we should use it more and more. And we can't publicise our sport enough. I mean, the overall media coverage, with the exception of Tom's paper, thankfully, but generally speaking, the overall media coverage is non-existent, frankly. And newspapers are still important, and we're just not really figuring it there at all. So any other means, yeah, for sure. And the final, I don't know the politics of this or anything else, but the final won't be in RT next Saturday, as far as I know, and that's. When you lose that slot, it can be hard to get it back. But I must say the Racing Post TV, I've been watching at the track, so but it looks superb. It looks very, very good. Social media is great. Yeah, look, the whole country is changing. I mean, no one under 30 probably buys a newspaper now anymore anyway. So why not? Let's use all the means that we can. And these kind of things I think are very good. And more people are watching them, for sure. Yeah, it is a change, but equally, we want the crowd back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Tommy, I know it's a bit unfair to you. You're going to be writing thousands of words in the next week on the derby, but you view the derby very differently this year than other years.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. It's in greyhound racing. You can have owners in horse racing. I don't want to be disparaging about them, but they can be a little bit distant from the horse in that there are a lot of very big multi-millionaire owners who maybe use it as a kind of entertainment to some degree, whereas they've got hundreds of horses. You've got men with dogs, a couple of dogs, and they're just really so attached to them. They're like family pets. It's very close to them. It's soul destroying not to be able to go to see those running. It really is. I know if you're fortunate enough, if you're a handler, if you're a trainer, you can be there. But people meet up there at the track and they have a bit of a chat and they tell them about this great pup they've got coming through. And then you get to a derby with these greyhounds and they get to a final and people can't be there as part of it. Some of the best nights in Curraheen Park for the Laurels final and for the derby finals when you've had bus loads coming together with connections of a greyhound. I mean, who are you going to turn to on Saturday night when you win a derby? Like, you win a derby, it's like they don't throw these around like confetti. Like you get one chance a year and maybe one chance in a lifetime. I know some of the trainers involved here, and I've been fortunate enough to have been there before, and maybe even some of the owners. But look at there, Gary Hicks and Clara Icahn. You know what I mean? Wouldn't be fantastic? You've got Michael Corey. I saw that in the interview the other night, and fantastic. You see the passion involved with the cores there. It's just connections. I mean, a miracle. What a joy that is. That's it. That's a little bit of what people are going to miss on Saturday night. Now, look, if I was to be critical of Racing Post TV, I sat down the first round that they were showing, and my wife was sitting next to me. She wasn't exactly interested in watching the Greyhound racing. She was reading the paper or something, and she said, "Where has that been filmed? Is that inside in somebody's bedroom?" It does look like we if we could get that right, the quality right, step up on that. I mean, the actual quality of the pictures. I don't think it's that difficult. I assume it's a financial implication is the reason that it's kind of almost blurred to some degree. But I mean, I'd be lost without that the last while. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I was in Dublin the weekend for Champions Weekend, and I got out of Leopardstown Saturday night and straight to a television where I wanted to watch. I watched Racing Post TV. It's been a saviour, and I'd say the number of people who have watched it would say the same thing. It's not perfect, but I'll tell you what, it's a great start.
Certainly is a great start, Declan. We're glad to have them.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It's superb, and it can get better. It can better, and you're doing great stuff on it. Rob was doing good interviews on it, and it's tremendous, no, it is very, very good. It would be fantastic if next year they did Shelbourne every Saturday. You know what I mean? There is a market for it in England. Definitely there is, with the bookmakers in England as well, because it is high quality racing every week. And
there are media rights deals and whatnot in place, I know, with Racing Post TV, but they've certainly put their oar behind Irish racing this year. I know, apart from the racing on a Saturday, they get me on a Wednesday to focus on Irish racing, and they let me choose what I want to show, which is great. So we have got around the country a bit. Obviously, we try and restrict it to open class racing because, it's what people want to watch. But the more the merrier, shall we say? Looking to Saturday night, it is going to be a very different occasion. Declan, I know you're going to be up at the commentary, or you're next to the commentary box in your own press box. It won't be like another year, but still an occasion to look forward to, although occasion is probably the wrong term. The sense of occasion is not going to be there, but still a great race to look forward to. And it's been a great competition.
It has been, it has been very, very much. We miss everyone who's not there. Of course we do. We miss the buzz, the atmosphere, but on the track, it's been brilliant. It's a very, very good derby. And we've a fantastic final to look forward to. I know we say that every year, and every year we do look forward to it. Of course we do. But this year it is special because we've two very special dogs. Now, it could well be that neither of them win it. And whoever wins it will be a very special dog as well. No doubt about that. Bad dogs don't win derbies. But we have two superstars here on Saturday night. Unfortunately, one of them at least, we might have a dead heat. Who's to say in this strangest of strange years anything could happen?
A triple dead heat. Oh, you might as well go the whole log, Declan.
Yeah, why not? No, but between the two favourites, and that would be some race. I mean, if the two of them go at it, hammer and tongs from the front, we are going to have an incredible race. But either way, yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I can't wait for it for sure.
If they do go hammer and tongs from the front, we'll be boring people for years to come. Speaking of that famous clash in the Derby final in 2020.
Sure,
Tommy, you'll be watching it from the freedom of your couch, will you? Or are you commentating on track or anything like that?
No, I'll be at home watching it from the freedom of my couch, as you say. I can't wait for it. But I wonder, just by the nature of the two dogs, can they finish first and second?
Well, there's a question. There is a question. Of course, that's a question we're going to answer very shortly because, Declan, I'm going to ask you, how do you see the race panning out? And I want a prediction, 1, 2, 3.
I think New and Taylor is allowed to beat. I'll go 6-4-5.
6-4-5. New and Taylor beat Pastana and Ballymac Cooper. And you basically just see New and Taylor getting to the front, Pastana staying with them into the bend, New and Taylor getting around on the outside, and Ballymac Cooper being the closest of the rest throughout.
Yeah, I knew, and well, at some stage, it may not be in the run to the first bend. It could be perhaps the third bend. Third bend does favour wide runners in the Shelbourne big time, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's a toss-up between the two favourites. Of course it is, yeah. But I mean, you asked me, you put my head in the block, and I go 6-4-5. I think that there's going to be some crowding on the inside, definitely, okay, on the run-up. And two of the inside dogs are already under pressure as things stand, you know. So that's how I see it anyway.
Tommy?
I'm just going to switch them around a little bit. I'm going to go 4-6 Pastana and New and Taylor. I'm kind of a little bit conflicted here because I've been with Pastana all along, just because of what he's done. But like, you can take nothing from New and Taylor, and if you didn't show me the rest of the Derby, just show me last Saturday night heats, I'd say the professionalism of New and Taylor would sway me that way. But I've seen it all, and I think Pastana, they both do 3:32s. Pastana wins, and New Ballymac Wild I think would be in the first three, maybe second. It could be 4-1-6, 4-6-1, something like that.
Okay, so 4-6-1. You're going with Pastana to be New and Taylor.
What are you going?
Sorry, you're breaking up there, Tommy. What you say? Listen, I have to put it in print anyway, so I don't see the point in holding back. I've always said that until Pastana shows signs of fatigue or waning, I'll stick with him. I'm just sticking with him now out of pure belligerence because on the optics of last Saturday night, New and Taylor is very much perhaps the one to beat, but no, I'll stick with Pastana to beat New and Taylor. I just think the two of them will be 5 lengths clear of the nearest rival at halfway, and I have a feeling that Ballymac Wild and Meaning Miracle, as Declan suggested, may get a bit tangled up. If they don't, one or two of them will drift off the second bend. Just wouldn't be surprised if Clara Icon ran into third spot, something like that. But I'll go 4, 6, and 3. So 2 votes for Pastana, 1 vote for New and Taylor. But sure, what would we know, lads?
True.
Lads, enjoy the Derby. And hopefully, this time next week, we'll be speaking of one of the all-time great contests.
Indeed. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, lads. Well, that's it for Talking Derby today. Remember, on Saturday night, 144 dogs will be reduced to 6, and we will see the winner emerging of the 2020 BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. €115,000 to the winner, and let's hope it turns out to be the contest we expect it to be.
And it might even be the Champions Stakes winner, Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy.